Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar this morning. I'm Leanne, one of the founders of the 9-Month Club, and this is Laura. You can give a quick wave on the screen. I'm going to talk you through our agenda first for this morning, which I'll talk you through, and then I will go into introducing ourselves a little bit more. So by the end of the webinar, we want you to have a clear understanding of who we are and what we're about. We want to go through the results of our survey and what this means for businesses, to know how the 9-Month Club can support your employees, and look at some case studies of people we have helped. So a little bit about us. We both have 2 young children and both returned back to work. We felt there was no real support on our return. And in addition, so many challenges we have been faced with after having a new baby that really affected our mental well-being. My first baby, for example, never slept during the day at all, which made me feel that there was no time to achieve anything. I had lots of friends who had babies who were sleeping at their right time and they were able to conduct some kind of normality. So I felt quite isolated, and I felt like I'd lost my identity a little bit. And I kept trying to work out how to achieve the sleep, and nothing was working. And I actually got in touch with a sleep consultant, and I didn't know this was available at the time. And they, within weeks, had changed my whole being. And I had a baby that was started sleeping, and I myself could be more productive. So it's this type of stuff that got us really interested and involved in how we could support parents throughout their journey. So we started this company, as I said, 2 years ago, because we felt there was a real lack of support for people going on parental leave. And people were expected just simply to have a year off and come back to work as if nothing had really changed. When in reality, everything has changed. Having a baby has an impact on you as a person, as an employee, and on your well-being, which is why it's so important that we need to support parents throughout this time. So we support people from the time they announce they are expecting a baby all the way through until they return to work. This ensures that they are happy parents and come back to work rested and productive. And we'll explain a little bit more on this later on.
So, hello everyone. For many people, family planning starts in the workplace. And what I mean by this is that people are conscious of when the right time is to have a baby or start thinking of having a baby, to make sure that it's the right time in their career. And in fact, 70% of first-time parents admit that the workplace impacted their timing of their first baby, and 82% thought that their career was still very important. And this really shows that people want to be able to do both. They want to be able to be a good parent and also have a career. And so companies really need to do all they can to support this. People don't want to give up on their career ambitions, and they will move to a more family-friendly company in order for them to do this. And in fact, a Women in the City survey in September 2019 found that 60% of women changed jobs after their maternity leave. And so it was on the back of trying to research all of these statistics that we wanted to dig a little deeper and find out more about how people felt about how their parental leave was managed and how they felt about their transition back to work, amongst other things. And so we did a survey last year where we asked men and women who were working parents, either with their first child or subsequent children, to answer our survey to try and ascertain whether companies were doing enough to support them. And I'm going to go through some of those results now. So the first lot of questions were about policies and support. And we asked, so the first thing we asked was, how do you feel about the benefits and support offered by your company? And 52% said that they were good or adequate. So you can see here that really almost a 50-50 split is not the best, and clearly more needs to be done. And then we asked whether or not they were offered kit days and whether they used them. And 40% said yes, and they used them. 23% said yes, they were offered but didn't use them. And 37% said that they weren't used them at all. And this really shows that kit days are not being utilised. And on speaking to lots of our clients, most kit days, for those of people that did actually use them, most kit days are not structured or particularly helpful in helping them return to work. And it was more just about a day away from the baby and seeing their friends at work. And then we asked them, oh, sorry, the screen is not, I can see not changing to yours. Then we asked them, did your employer keep in touch with you? And 43% said yes, and a staggering 57% said no. And if you combine the fact that some employees will have had no kit day, or one that wasn't particularly helpful, and no real contact with their work for the year that they are on leave, and yet they're still expected to go back and slot right back in. And this is really a big issue. I know that when I went back to work after my eldest child, I was told on my first day back that the systems had changed and ways to report, etc., had changed. And so I asked my line manager how long these systems had been changed, and he said a few months. And I asked why he hadn't told me before, and they said, "Oh, I didn't want to bother you whilst you were on leave, and I thought we'd just sort it all out when you came back." And this actually just made my return a lot more difficult and much more stressful than it needed to be. And I'm not alone in this at all, because we have spoken to many clients who have said very, very similar things. And so it really shows that kit days should be used properly to help fully support the employees returning to work. Then we asked about flexible working and productivity. So there's a little lag here in what you can see. And I don't know why. Okay, so we asked how important flexible working is to you. And 92% said that it was important or very important. And then we asked whether or not their employers offered flexible working. And 68% said yes, and 32% said no. And then we asked them, and so you can see from these questions that flexible working is really important to the majority of people, because it's this that allows them to be both career-minded and be a more present parent, as in they were able now to potentially take their child to nursery or to school and then go to work. However, if you look at the next question, which is, did having a baby affect your productivity at work? You can see that a staggering 73% of people said yes. Now, again, from speaking to a number of clients, they reported that this was due to lack of sleep, lack of routine, not really knowing if they were coming or going. And so whilst flexible working is invaluable and something that all companies should be doing, clearly there is also more to do in supporting both the well-being and productivity of employees. So lastly, I want to talk about the questions related to baby support. And we found that we asked, does your employer offer any form of antenatal and postnatal support, so access to sleep consultants, etc.? And everybody said no. And then we asked, would you like your employer to offer you this kind of support? And 76% said yes. And so it's quite interesting that it's not happening, and yet a really large proportion of people would find this support invaluable. Now, of this statistic, it's quite interesting to see that 64% were women and only 12% were men. And this shows that women are still the ones that care more about this level of support, because they are the ones that are most affected by it.
Okay, I did forget to say at the beginning, if there are any questions throughout the webinar, if you want to jot them down, and we'll have time for questions and answers at the end. So, as you can see, from the results of our survey, you can see there's a fundamental lack of support for those on and returning from parental leave. The year where your life has changed so dramatically and actually should therefore warrant support. From our survey and the clients we've worked with, we've created Lauren to help show you what some new parents feel on their return to work. So this is Lauren. Lauren has just returned to work from parental leave, and she's suffering from a lack of sleep. Lauren's lack of sleep has affected her productivity, and she keeps making mistakes in her work. She keeps getting colds and taking sick days as her immune system is shot from the lack of sleep. Lauren's mental well-being is severely affected. She's extremely stressed and thinks that she's going to lose her job. Maybe the easy option is just to quit. Lack of sleep, a change of routine, and a poorly supported returning parent can harm a career and damage a company's success and bottom line. So, why work with us?
No, with Lauren.
Okay, sorry. Just 1 second. So perhaps if Lauren had worked with us, we would have been able to support people like her. If she'd had transitional meetings, and we could have helped her transition back into work. If you keep thinking about Lauren and people like her, if they were to quit because they felt unsupported and just couldn't cope with the demands of being a new parent and good at their job, you as a company could lose excellent people, which will have a negative impact on the company and potentially their performance. If they were to leave, this could cost a business an average between £11,000 to £30,000 to replace. So by investing a small amount into your returning parents, you could save money in the long run. Therefore, creating wellbeing strategies for expecting new and returning parents can reduce employee turnover, increase productivity of returning parents, and reduce the cost of replacing staff.
So how do we work with our clients? Firstly, your organisation becomes a member of the 9-month club. You are then able to purchase parental wellbeing support packages. And as soon as your employees inform you of their happy news, you communicate this to the 9-month club, and we send them a welcome message, and they will immediately be able to access the benefits of the package. They will then be looked after by the 9-month club throughout their pregnancy, new parenthood, and their return to work. We offer antenatal video classes, important for those who are unable to get to theirs due to demands at work, deadlines, etc. And also, quite frankly, just due to exhaustion. 7 months pregnant and working full-time is really quite a hard challenge. And it's actually also been really useful for people in the last few months due to COVID, when they've been unable to access their classes. So once the baby is born, from between about 6 to 8 weeks, we have routine consultations. And then from about 12 weeks, we have sleep consultations with a follow-up. And these routine and sleep consultations are crucial in getting the baby into a good sleep schedule to ensure our clients are getting their sleep. They then have access to a weaning webinar, and this helps parents know the different types of weaning strategies, what foods to start with to ensure their baby is getting a healthy and balanced diet, which is important for their immune system. And then we have the important transitional meetings, one 6 weeks before and then 2 weeks before returning to work, to iron out any feeding or sleep issues that may have arisen and discuss any anxieties that they may be feeling with returning to work. You, the employer, will then also receive an annual workshop, including our latest working parent survey data and policy development support based on these results.
Okay, so now we're going to take you through some of our case studies with clients that we have worked with over the last year. So this is Michelle, and she has a quite high-profile job at American Express, and she came to us a few months before she was returning to work as a full-time member of staff. She was very anxious when she came and spoke to us because she felt like her whole life had changed, and she felt that she'd had no communication with her work for the past 6 months. And she had lost all confidence at the idea of going back to work. So we had an initial consultation with her, and we got to the bottom of her anxiety because she felt like she couldn't be a good parent and a productive employee at the same time. So the first thing we did was help put her baby into a good sleep routine, because her baby was waking up every 3 hours. And as a result of her baby waking up every 3 hours, she was feeling unwell. She was feeling more anxious because she just thought, how can I, go to work and be a good employee and be productive if I can't even manage to get through a day without even working? So within a couple of months, we got her baby sleeping much bigger chunks at night, which really reflected Michelle's mental well-being. And we'd asked her if she used her kit days. And she hadn't actually used them because she felt that using them would mean she'd be a day away from the baby, and they hadn't really showed her what she could get out of her kit days. So we talked to her about using the kit days as a staggered return to work, going in, having a practice at leaving your baby alone at the childminders for the first time, another key anxiety, and putting agenda across with their line manager about what things had changed. As Laura previously mentioned, systems sometimes change. And therefore, she could have a whole day where she was kind of not kind of kept up to speed straight away or brought up to speed, that she would be able to kind of see some of the changes and start getting to a feel for what working life would be like. And she took, I think, 3 kit days in the end. And she felt just by doing that in itself and having a plan was mentally starting to prepare her for work. But she also felt a bit isolated because a lot of her antenatal friends had already gone back to work or perhaps didn't have such a high profile job. So we buddied her up with some other parents that we'd worked with, other clients that we'd worked with, and they talked through some of their anxieties and issues and worked together. And she felt that was really helpful in supporting her. And we also write a lot of blogs, which kind of cover a lot of these issues. And she went through, she looked at our blog, and she said it was really, really helpful in using some of those strategies to help her move forward. And eventually she went back to work. And as you can see from the feedback here, we really helped prepare her for the change, and her confidence was really low. And had she not have spoken to us, she was already starting to kind of think about other career options, thinking that there was no way that she could go back to this job 5 days a week. And actually, if she'd left, Amex, American Express, would have really lost a really, really good member of staff. The next case study was Daly, who was from the Metropolitan Police. The reason why it's so important just to point out is it's not just females and women that are affected by all this. I don't think males sometimes get enough kind of understanding that they too and recognition are going through this. In fact, they have a lot less time to adapt to the lack of sleep and the massive change. After 2 weeks, often they have to go back to work and have the guilt of leaving their partner behind, and knowing that it's kind of perhaps a complete kind of nightmare at work, at home at that time when they've just had 2 weeks to get used to this huge challenge. So Daly actually approached us to help with their baby, who was at the time 8 weeks old, which might seem very young, but as he was a detective for the Met Police, his job was very, very physical. And if he hadn't had the right amount of sleep or the good routine for the baby to get into for that to happen, he was finding it very difficult to conduct his role safely. He also had a wife who was finding it very challenging, being left alone. So he was going to work not only with the lack of sleep, but also that guilt, as I just mentioned. So again, like Michelle, we really like to get babies into a sleep routine really early on, because Michelle came to us at 6 months. Yes, it was possible, but had we have gone to her at maybe 10, 12 weeks by starting early on, we wouldn't get to that point perhaps of the client feeling really low in confidence, because we would have already achieved the sleep pattern, and therefore the anxiety levels would be reduced the time they were thinking about going back to work. So again, we put the baby into a really good sleep pattern through strategies. At that time, it was about getting the baby to nap better in the day for it to affect the night time. And within weeks, we saw huge changes. And Daly then returned to work every day, much happier, because he knew that he was obviously well rested, but in addition, that he wasn't leaving his wife in a state. So there was lots of different issues that could come up, whether it's male or female, in which we feel this support is invaluable. And last one, just to show you, this is Verity. She actually left her role as assistant head when she went on maternity leave. This was her second child that we helped her with. So her first child, she got her into a really strict routine really early on, and it worked really well for her. And she had a 15-month age gap, so quite a small age gap there. And a few months on, she contacted us and said that her second baby wasn't following suit of the first and wasn't sleeping, was waking up the other child through crying excessively at night. She couldn't work out what was wrong, and she realised she started to get into some bad habits because she was more worried about waking up the first baby. So it proved a lot of different challenges that she hadn't encountered the first time round. So again, we worked through what those issues were. Her nap times were all wrong, her feeding times were wrong, and we adapted that. She was also breastfeeding at the time and wanted to start weaning her off that, so we helped support her along the way. Unfortunately, then her older child, because of being woken up by the younger child, also started waking up. So it doesn't just stop at babies. We can also help toddlers. And we also then came up with different strategies to keep the toddler in her bed as well. So it's quite a long process, but we worked with her really closely. And within, again, a few months, she then had a baby who was waking up every hour to a baby that was sleeping from 7 till 7. And that was through lots of strategies, lots of help. She actually did pay for more sleep consultancies because she wanted to make sure that she was ready to return to work, because she had the second child, so it was a bit more difficult for her. But during this time, she was told about a promotion at her work, where the position of deputy head teacher had come along. When she first heard about it, she said absolutely no way, there's no way she could go for it. But after approaching us and helping, she then started to see there was a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. And she thought, actually, I can do this, because I think I can be able to go back to work with a lot more confidence. And she decided to go for the role. And she actually got the job as deputy head while she was on maternity leave. But she said she never would have gone for this role had she not have had the help from us, which we felt really happy about, that she'd achieved that. She did, however, say that when she went back to work, it was literally straight in as if she'd never been absent. And she felt that was really difficult, and something that she could see that needed changing. And as her role as deputy head, she's now has brought us in to do some insets to show how that can change.
So now something everyone wants to know about. How much do these wellbeing support packages cost? So as you can see from the table, the prices are £395 if you buy just for an ad hoc one person at a time. Whereas if you buy in bulk of 5, 10 or 20 or even 50, you can see that the price goes down per person. So for example, if you buy 20 packages in one go, it goes down to £325 per person. Now, if we're going to go with a statistic that 60% of women change jobs after maternity leave, then this would mean a potential saving of £132,000 for your company. So just some concluding comments from us before we ask if there's any questions. Most parents returning from parental leave suffer with a lack of confidence and a lack of sleep. Lack of sleep and anxiety has an impact on both mental well-being and the level of productivity in the workplace. So really, employers should be doing everything that they can to support their staff's well-being, to prevent both anxiety and sleep deprivation, so that you can have happy, productive employees. Do you have any questions to ask?
Going to click. There's no questions as yet. Okay, there's one coming through, I think. Okay, so just to relay the question so everyone can hear, is your support packages seem to cover everything up to returning to work. How do you support parents once they go back to work? Okay, so we, throughout their time on parental leave, we support them by giving them the consultations of the transitional meetings before they go back to work. And we also help support their kick days to look at kind of what the issues are and what they want to achieve out of them. So this, in effect, is supporting parents once they go back to work, because the support that we're offering them should mean there is a much smoother transition. If, for example, there are still issues, we are not going to kind of just write them off as soon as they go back into work. But the package should support so that transitional period is smooth and they do feel confident to go back to work. However, if they have a child, if they go back to work and a week later their baby is waking up or they need some extra support, that is something we can discuss later on with different support packages available. And another question here is, how long do I have to use the support packages once they're purchased?
Shall I answer that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, once you've bought if you buy, say, a bulk of 10, then they're essentially 10 packages that you've bought, and you have a year to give them to your employees.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay, so so if I've bought 10 and I've only used 8, what does that mean? Okay, so obviously, if you've still got 2, it is an annual thing, so you are buying it over the year. It's something that we can discuss at the time of renewing how that works, on a discretionary basis. Any other questions? Okay, I think there might be one more coming through.
Okay.
Oh, maybe not.
No.
Any more questions coming through? Oh, there's 2 more. Oh, I need to scroll down. Oh, I see. Do you offer any other things? I assume from that question you mean apart from like the sleep consultancy and what we went through. Obviously, you can see the package that we went through offers the weaning, the sleep consultancy, the transitions back to work. There are other individual workshops that we are working on to offer. Toilet training as one of them is in process. We also are looking at perhaps other areas that we can use as a bolt on later on. But most of the things that we offer right now are the sleep consultancy and the weaning and the transitional back to work, as we feel from our research this is right now the most important area. And another question is, do you do anything else with HR?
So with regard to HR, we will do, as Leanne mentioned earlier, we would like to work with companies to help support their kit days and to ensure that they are helpful in supporting people coming back to work and actually have a structure to their day, because it's that we think really helps support employees rather than just coming a hi, let me see photos of your baby. And we'll also do annual workshops where we will go through our survey, because this kind of survey we do every year to see how things have changed, to see if with companies' new policies, if they've had a good and positive impact, and if there's anything else that companies could be doing to better support working parents. So we will then go through those results with HR and help to support any new policies that you might wish to change.
And another question is, how do I get in touch with you? I think Laura's actually got a screen to show that. And yeah, so for more information, please contact us at contact@9monthclub.com.
Okay.
And there's one more question coming up as well. Is, can you talk more about the savings in staff replacement costs that your support provides? I don't know if you want to go back to that screen, Laura, so we can use some statistics there. Do you want to talk it through?
Yeah, sure. So we were talking about this because if we were looking at the statistic of the 60% of women who leave their jobs after maternity leave. And so you can see on the right-hand side of the column, that would be the potential savings. So if there was 10 people that you bought the package for, that was £3,500. But if 6 of those people were to leave, then it would cost you, the company, approximately £66,000 to replace them. And so therefore we as a company would be saving you that much if we were able to ensure that those 10 people were to come back from maternity leave fully rested and productive and stayed with you in their work.
Was there any other questions? No? Okay, great. Thank you so much for joining us. And this has been recorded, so we are happy to send you recordings of this for you to share with colleagues. And we look forward to hearing from you soon. And thank you again.
Thank you for joining.